everyone, and welcome to the Academy of Anatomy. With me, I am your host, Dr. K, and today we will delve into the fascinating organ that is the lungs. In today's episode, I will be discussing specifics of respiratory structures and functions, as well as COPD, what it is, the primary causes, the symptoms, its effect on the lungs, as well as the medical technology that's used to treat and diagnose this disease. Let's begin. The respiratory structure is comprised of four important features that enable it to function properly. 1. A thin, permeable respiratory membrane through which diffusion can occur. 2. A large surface area to facilitate gas exchange. 3. A good supply of blood. And 4. A breathing system for bringing oxygen-rich air into the system. The lungs are an integral part of the respiratory system because they fulfill the first three structural requirements. There are three major parts of the respiratory system. The first one is the airway. This includes the mouth, the nose, the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchi, and the bronchioles. The second is the lungs, which allow for the passing of oxygen into the body and carbon dioxide out of the body. And the last is the respiratory muscles. This includes the diaphragm and the internal and external intercostal muscles that work together to pump and push air into and out of the lungs during breathing. So how does the system work? The journey begins when air from the outside enters through the mouth or nasal passages. The air is warmed and moistened in the nose and mouth before it travels to the lungs to prevent damage to the thin and fragile tissue of the respiratory membrane. The air then travels into the pharynx or throat. It is important to note that as food enters the pharynx, the epiglottis closes the glottis, which is the entrance to the trachea, so that the food enters the esophagus instead. During breathing, the opposite occurs when the glottis remains open to allow easy airflow into the trachea. The trachea, commonly known as the windpipe, is a semi-rigid tube of soft tissue that is covered with bands of cartilage, which is necessary to keep the trachea open. The walls of the trachea are lined with tiny hair-like structures called cilia. Cilia moves in wave-like motions back and forth and secretes mucus, a sticky liquid that traps dust, germs, and other foreign substances that invade the lungs. The trachea divides into two smaller tubes called bronchi, one bronchus for each lung. The bronchi carry air into the lobes of the lungs, 2 lobes in the left lung and 3 lobes in the right lung. Inside the lungs, the bronchi continue to branch off into smaller tubes called bronchioles that spread throughout the lungs to form a respiratory tree. The airways end in clusters of alveoli. There is approximately 150 million of these cup-shaped sacs in each lung, and this large amount of alveoli allow for maximum surface area for gas exchange. Each cluster is surrounded by capillaries, which are extremely small blood vessels. Gas exchange occurs in the alveoli. As the air reaches the alveoli, it's already moist, and the respiratory membrane that forms the alveoli is also moist. The moisture enables oxygen diffusion. The respiratory system is only one cell layer thick, so there is little distance between the air in an alveolus and blood in capillaries. Oxygen diffuses into the bloodstream while carbon dioxide diffuses into alveolus. Air always flows from an area of higher pressure to an area of lower pressure. During inhalation, the diaphragm contracts, causing it to shorten and flatten. The external intercostal muscles contract and pull the ribs upward, increasing pressure. During exhalation, the diaphragm relaxes, causing it to lengthen and rise. The internal intercostal muscles relax and pull the ribs downward, increasing pressure. Imagine that you are given a balloon. You try to blow air to inflate it, but have lots of difficulty trying to do so. Even with great effort, you are only able to blow very little air at a time. You feel out of breath. This might be the situation if you are suffering from a disease of the respiratory system. Our disease of the day is COPD, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. COPD is a lung disease that is a combination of bronchitis and emphysema, and it affects approximately 1.5 million Canadians. Bronchitis is the inflammation and irritation of the airways in which the linings of the bronchi and bronchioles become swollen, producing excess mucus and making it hard to breathe. While emphysema causes permanent damage to the alveoli as they lose their elasticity and shape. Damage to the walls between the alveoli results in a reduction of surface area of the respiratory membrane and an overall reduction in oxygen and carbon dioxide diffusion. 80 to 90% of all cases of COPD are caused by cigarette smoke, while other causes include prolonged exposure to pollution, dust or fumes, genetics, and wood, smoke, and other biomass fuels that are used for cooking. The symptoms to COPD are similar to those of asthma, including coughing, wheezing, chest tightness, and shortness of breath. Unfortunately, there is no cure to COPD because damage to the alveoli is permanent and worsens over time. However, with proper medication and lifestyle changes, the symptoms can be alleviated and the progression can slow down. The most essential step is to stop all smoking. Although it may seem daunting to quit, counseling with a doctor can help control nicotine intake. As well, it's also important to avoid secondhand smoke exposure whenever possible. Medications can include bronchodilators, flap inhibitors, and antibiotics. In the most extreme cases, oxygen therapy or lung transplants are necessary. Sufferers of COPD are likely to die from it or from other related complications such as heart failure, pneumonia, or respiratory failure. Thank you for tuning into Academy of Anatomy, and all the best luck on your test.